Okay, so we're back on the OSU campus, and today we're going to shoot the Theta Pond district, which is kind of the central district of the Oklahoma State campus. To come out and shoot the Theta Pond district, I decided, you know what, today I'm going to be able to shoot some ducks. So I'm bringing out the big guns. I'm going to bring out the A7SIII and shoot on it today and show you around the Theta Pond district, kind of the central district of the OSU campus. It's a nice little calming, I would call it like a calm spot in the eye of the storm. Like no matter what is going on campus, you may be crazy, it might be a crazy day or whatever, you can always come to this area right here. It's a very calming, very relaxing area. This is the first spot, it's Theta Pond. Very beautiful, nice spot on the campus. Just to the north of Theta Pond, you get your first look at the student union and the gardens associated with it. And this is really a good spot for pictures. A lot of senior photos taken here, a lot of graduation photos taken here. Right here on this little pedestal is the best place to take a senior picture of, because what you do is you put on a 7200 and sit your subject up on that, and you can really compress the library in the background, and it makes a really good picture. I'll show you a picture of my daughter that I took right here. It's really cool picture, but that's the spot right there. That's the money shot. The gardens are very beautiful. They keep them very maintained, well manicured, and just a nice little spot. And this is the first spot you really get a good shot of the backside of the student union. Man, if there's one thing I can guarantee you, it's going to be hot in Oklahoma in July. That is for sure. I mean, it is brutal out here. Anyway, been walking around the campus, and we'll sit down and talk a little bit about the A7SIII. There's not just a whole lot more I can say about it that hadn't been said in a million other videos that you can find on YouTube. So I don't have a lot to add to that. It's probably one of the best cameras that you can buy, at least video-wise. For a long time, I thought 4K 60 was pretty much unnecessary. You really didn't need it. But when I got in this camera, I realized how much that I use that. And I like to shoot in 4K 60, and if I need to slow something down, I can slow it down. And that's been a really nice addition. Also, the 4K 120, and that's just icing on the cake if you ask me, and it's really nice. You can get some really clean shots with that. For most of my needs though, this thing is complete and utter overkill, I will admit. And from here, the beautiful Edmond Low Library. Just a beautiful library. And from up here on the Edmond Low Library, you can get a kind of a good overview of the whole area that we're covering today, and just how beautiful the OSU campus really is, and how well maintained they keep it throughout the year. Just a beautiful campus at OSU, and this is a really good spot to view it all from, right here on the steps of the Edmond Low Library. There is a few things that you need to watch out for. One is the ISO value. If you get going too high in the base ISO, it'll get really noisy. Your footage will be really noisy until it switches over to this dual native ISO point. And how you can figure that, you take the base ISO and multiply that times 20, and that'll give you where it breaks over into the dual ISO. For instance, how you tell that, like say you're shooting an S-Log3, the base ISO is 640, the dual native ISO is 12,800. So you just gotta be aware of where the ISO is at all times with this camera, because if you let it get too high in the base ISO, you'll have some really grainy footage. When I first got the camera, I was out shooting S-Log, I was like, man, everything's gonna be so beautiful in this camera. I got it back into editing, and it was just terrible, grainy and everything. It's because I just had the ISO on auto, and was out shooting and S-Log3, and basically had no idea what I was doing, and had some pretty terrible footage. So you really have to learn how to control the ISO values, and it's really, once you get used to it, it's no big deal. But if you're one of these people like me, like I was, I just used to put it in auto, and away I went. That's probably not something you're going to want to do all the time. I mean, you can get away with it most of the time, but if you're shooting something that you think is fairly important, or it's important that you get good footage, You want to make sure that you have good control of the ISO value. I mean, look how pretty this is. This is from this spot right here, you can see from one end to the other, all the way down there. Another thing about this camera people will talk about is the photo quality that you get with this camera. Well, so far I've been really impressed with the photo quality. I mean, for the most part, you're not going to see much of a difference at all, if any. The only thing that I ever have a problem with this camera and you wouldn't want to do is crop in a lot on the pictures. For some of the photography that I do, I like to get my 70 to 200 lens, or I have a 70 to 180 Tamron lens, and I like to go into crop mode, the Super 35 mode, and give me just that extra little punch. I want to be way away from the action, so I'm not in the way and I'm not making anybody nervous, and I'm not standing out or anything like that. So I want to get away as far as possible, and that's a good way for me to do it without getting a humongous, you know, 600 millimeter lens. So I get that setting to 180 and hit the crop mode, and then I'm out there a pretty good distance, and it works out perfect for me. But that's something that you wouldn't be able to do with this camera. Everyday normal pictures, you wouldn't want to be cropping in too much on that. But you'll know if you crop a lot when you're editing pictures. Like when I'm just editing portraits and landscapes and stuff like that, I hardly ever crop any at all. Not that big of a deal for me to use this camera for photography in 80 to 85% of my project. I think the photo quality on this camera is fine. You should know that if you crop a lot or tend to crop a lot when you're editing your photos, this might not be a great camera for you as far as photo-wise. But if you don't crop very much, it's going to work out just fine. There's nothing to really even worry about. So left in this little tour, we have Whitehurst, which is basically administration, upper end administration anyway. This is where the president's office would be. And just across the way, you have Willard Hall. And I'm not quite sure what they do in Willard Hall, but back in the day, it used to house education majors. This is where their administrative building would be. So I don't know if that's still where it is or not, but that's what it used to be. And that's Willard Hall. As far as picture profiles on this camera, it has all the Sony picture profiles that you come to expect in a Sony camera, but I try to keep it as simple as possible. I use S-Cinetone if I'm just shooting something run and gun, or I want it to be easy to grade, or I don't want any grading at all. I just shoot S-Cinetone, and that's what I shoot majority of the time. If it's a little bit more important, I'll switch it over to S-Log3 if I want to have a little bit more control over what I'm shooting and what the picture looks like. So I try to shoot in just S-Cinetone and S-Log3. Just north of the Student Union, you have the venerable classroom building. Oklahoma State really outdid itself with the naming of this building, but it's the iconic building of OSU pretty much. It's just a general classroom building. They like the name so much that now they have another classroom building called Classroom Building North, and the clock tower in between the classroom building and the Student Union. As far as image stabilization, this camera's got you covered. There's 3 ways. You can use the IBIS, you can use the active stabilization, or you can also put in catalyst browse and stabilize that way. All of them are good solutions. In-body image stabilization by itself is not that great. You add the active image stabilization, and it's good enough. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not the greatest in the world, but it is, it's good enough for me anyway. You can also on this camera use your gyro data and put it in catalyst browse, but I found that program just takes way too much time to do for me. One of the main things that I've seen that's different from the way the school is now than the way it used to be when I went to school here is all the seating area they have. They have so much seating, common areas where you can come and sit down and relax and, you know, socialize with your other students. Back when I went here, there was never anything like this. No tables, no chairs, nothing. They have benches and tables and chairs everywhere out here. It's really neat. So I hope you've enjoyed this little walk around the Theta Pond section of the OSU campus. And just a little bit of talk about the A7SIII, not a whole lot, not just a whole lot more that I can say about it. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please hit that like button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.